Hey there, Minnesota Vikings fans. Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. I almost want to call this a special edition because we are doing this on the eve of some really big breaking news here from Minnesota, but we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. I am Kyle West. I'm accompanied by Kyle Smith.
Wearing no pants during this podcast. Me.
There is no need for pants because that is all down. What goes on down here, man, that no one needs to know.
So it's really sandy and windy in El Paso, Texas, and my phone wouldn't stop going off. So how appropriately titled that today's show, episode 241, is Free AP.
Because we have so much Adrian Peterson to talk about. Really quick before we get going, Adam Carlson will be back next week. He is on a much-deserved week of vacation, taking a little bit of extended time to himself. He deserves it, so he will be back, and it's funny, we were just talking about that. Every time Adam is gone, we end up with big Adrian Peterson news. So this is officially his fault. Like, if you guys don't like the fact of what just happened with Adrian, you should tweet him on Twitter and let him know that it's all Adam's fault.
Yeah, you should definitely do that. Adam's Twitter is MN, like Minnesota, MN Viking Zombie, so... yeah, you should definitely hit him up and tell him, hey, man, we don't like this.
Yeah, send him your hate mail. Let's see here. But he'll be back next week. We look forward to having Adam back with us. And the name of the show is Free AP. That is, in, of course, reference to the fact that the Vikings will not exercise the 2017 contract option for Adrian Peterson, who is due or would be due $18 million. He will become an unrestricted free agent on March 9th. Holy shit.
Yeah, this is it's not that surprising, but actually having it happen and say it out loud. It was a talk of work today. We're out training. You guys can see I'm still in my stuff from work, but it's all we talked about today. Of course, my best friend here is a Packers fan, and he thinks that he's going to do great there, and then there's a picture with AP and Zeke Elliott in Dallas. I mean, I didn't think that he would draw this much attention because, I'll be honest, he's an aging running back, and he just came off of another knee injury last year. But we are talking about Adrian Peterson, so who knows? You know, knowing our luck, he'll probably go somewhere and, do some pretty big things. But I think I'll keep it short and sweet because we're going to talk about this in the main part of it. I think it was the right move not to pick his option up. Now, what a lot of people are saying is, well, this doesn't mean he couldn't come back. You're absolutely right. But if I've noticed anything about Adrian over the years, he wants to make top dollar because he thinks he's the best. Now, I know that pretty much every player in the NFL, minus a few, think they're the best of their position. You guys know that if you listen to the show, I don't think he's the best running back anymore in football. That's not to say he's not good, maybe even top 5, but I don't think he's the absolute best. You got to do multiple things to get that category. So to get paid that $18 million, I just don't see him with that value. That's almost average quarterback money for a running back who's turning 32 next month. So I think the Vikings did the right thing by not picking up his contract option. Will there be talks about him coming back? Yeah, both parties have already hinted at it, but in all likelihood, unless he just really, really, really wants to stay in Minnesota, which I don't think he does, I don't see him coming back unless he's going to spend his final year here or signs a one-day to retire as a Viking.
It's interesting, like you said, because we've been talking about this for so long that it's not really a surprise that they did this. But it is interesting that as of this moment, or coming up when he officially becomes an unrestricted free agent, that it is now former Minnesota Viking Adrian Peterson. That does have a little bit of an odd ring to it because he's been such a huge part of this team for such a long time. Like we said, is you can look at the playoff pushes that we've had and some of the better seasons that we've had, and you can attribute a lot of that to Adrian Peterson. I'm not surprised that he's getting kind of the attention that he's getting right now because he's kind of the first named player of the offseason that's been released. This is kind of the first big transaction of the league. So, of course, all the media outlets and everything are going to be talking and reporting about this because it is a huge story. I don't know. We had discussed about what kind of interest he's going to get from other teams in the league. And I think that there's going to be a lot of fans who are going to be typing on the interweb about how they want Adrian to come on their team. But I don't know NFL teams are going to be beating down the door to get Adrian Peterson on their roster. I think he's going to hit a reality check here really soon as to what his value is and how other teams view him at this stage in his career.
Yeah, he's going to have a different purpose somewhere else because the age of up the middle power backs, they always said that the running back position is slowly, dying out. I don't believe in that. I think it's just changing. I think you see that with backs who catch out of the backfield and who block and who can play out of multiple formations. We tried the shotgun last year, and the year prior at AP, 2 years ago, he did have a good year as far as yardage and all that stuff, but you got to look at guys that don't fumble a lot. You got to look at guys that block. You got to look at guys that catch out of the backfield. That's a big thing now. All-purpose and scrimmage yards, all that good stuff. From catching it as from being a receiver as well, and he's never really had that strong suit. In my opinion, 10 years in the league, I don't see that being something that you're going to just overnight be good at because you haven't been good at it for a long time. But I'm not here to hate on AP. I love the guy. I told Kyle before we started this, I think that he's responsible for about 50 to 60% of the wins that we've had entered this team. And I wish him well in whatever he does. I'm going to bounce these quick hits around because I think I'm going to time in a way that I like them. We're going to read Adrian's statement, and then I'm going to tie it into the next quick hit so we can move forward.
Okay.
Adrian says, according to an ESPN statement to ESPN, he goes, "It's been a great 10 years with Minnesota. They know what I bring to the organization as a player with my work ethic and dedication. I spoke with Rick Spielman this past weekend. The door is still open to find some common ground. I understand addressing the offensive line is one of their main priorities this offseason. In the meantime, I will explore my other options and see what path God leads me on. My main goal remains the same, to win a Super Bowl championship with a great team, which I also believe we have in Minnesota." So this being, with the rumor of tweets about the Giants and I might go to Houston and Tampa, blah, 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 this is cool to have a mutual respect, keep it classy. All in all, I think he was just putting it out there because it's what Adrian does. I don't think he ever met the organization badly, and I think after he leaves, he'll understand we loved him. But let's tie this in because Adrian was due $18 million this year. So we've already released 2 linemen, Brandon Fusco and Mike Harris, along with Adrian Peterson. Now, this is coming from Instagram, from another Vikings account. So it's not the official Vikings account, but according to what I read on Instagram today, Minnesota currently will have, with the new cap raise, we'll have close to $52 to $56 million in cap space for free agency with the release of Fusco, Harris, and Peterson. That's a ton of money. $10 million is something that a team would love to have on a good day when you're trying to lock down a player, for a multiple year contract or something. You want to give them something up front. $56 million, if this is the correct number, that's ridiculous. That's 2 or 3 pretty top-notch players you could lock in right there. So I'm really excited about that.
Let's address this really quick as to what I think that means for the team, because a lot of people are going to look at that and I think they're going to instantly go, what outside free agents are the Vikings going to go after with that money? And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the bulk of this is going to be for bringing back our own talent. Adam Thielen, we've got a ton of guys that we don't need to go through. You know who they are: Adam Thielen, Cordero Patterson, whatnot. So it's going to be focused a lot on retaining our own talent and then see what they have left over for free agency. So I don't expect them to go out there and whoever the big fish, the top free agent is that the Vikings are going to go after because they have so much cap space like that. That is not what I see happening.
Right, and that's the thing that you got to realize too. You got a player like Xavier Rhodes that needs to get paid, and this is a lot of money that could go towards him as well because, of all the people that we have left that we have to lock down, I know he's got another year left, I believe, but goodness, man, that's a guy you can't afford to lose.
Hey, it's as good a time as any to get him paid. He's deserving of a contract. He's one of the top corners in the league. You want to pay him and, show him the respect that he deserves. I think the Vikings need to get this taken care of. They've got the cap space. So get him locked up. You get him locked up. You get Thielen locked up. You get the rest of these guys locked up to a contract right now.
I love it. And we'll go from the cap and all the space that we're going to have with all these players being released to a rumor that's out there. There has been multiple reports that Minnesota is interested in free agent offensive tackle Russell Okung. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't care because this is only a Vikings podcast. He's either with the Ravens or the Broncos. It's one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's the Broncos. If I'm wrong,
Broncos.
You can
the Broncos were the ones.
But I like the move. I like that they're immediately freeing up space and players to address their most needed issue. Like last year in the draft, we needed a receiver. We went out and got Laquan Treadwell. Obviously, that didn't work out like we wanted to yet. But getting this stuff in and making the initiative there, cool. Because I think if the Vikings started flirting with another running back, or let's say we tried to find another tight end or something like that, everybody would be like, what the hell are you doing? So it's pretty good consensus that we all said, hey, we got to fix the line, and that's what the brass is looking at, which is really nice. I'm going to leave the last one for you because I know you love Mr. 84. Roster update. Daryl Hazel has been officially signed as the wide receiver coach, and Derek Keys is the new strength and conditioning coach. Hazel was the coach of Purdue from 2013 to 2016. Prior to that, he was at Kent State from 2011 2012. He was the MAC Coach of the Year in his second season when he was at Kent State. So I don't know the guy from Adam, but I like the fact that someone has upgraded from a system and they were successful in a college system. So this seems like the perfect position as far as coaching would go. You get a specific skill group or, he's going to work his way up through, but he's proven success at multiple colleges. So, and these are big name colleges. Purdue's pretty good. They produce players like Drew Brees. So
yeah,
I like this move. I don't really know a lot about him, so I'm kind of blind in liking it. But everybody thought, oh man, we can get Randy Moss or Chris Carter. Honestly,
that ain't gonna happen. No, that's not realistic.
I get it. Those guys make tons of money reporting. They don't have to show up early, and they get to just talk for a few hours. So I get it. I totally understand it. But I like this hire, and I like the fact that we got a new strength and conditioning coach because we tore pectoral muscles like freaking Reese Cups around there. So hopefully that's over with. But speaking of wide receivers and the Vikings, Kyle West is going to say some things that a former general manager said.
Oh, geez. Bill Polian's an idiot. There's a reason why he got fired from Indianapolis, because he's an idiot. I don't care. Bill Polian, he's an idiot. Shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't think that Randy Moss should be in the Hall of Fame because he's a moron. And he gives some stupid reasons where everyone likes to throw this quote into Randy's face about how at one time he said that he plays when he wants to play and the lack of effort. And then Polian gives some bullshit excuses for that. And it's like, if you're going to start throwing players out for arbitrary things like that, I mean, half the people in the Hall of Fame ought to be chucked out. I mean, come on, Randy. We don't need to go into this. You guys know we're all Vikings fans. We all know how he changed the game and what he did for Minnesota, and how he was able to perform at a high level. Not only with Tom Brady when he was in New England, but I mean, you look at some of the guys that were playing with him in quarterback when he was in Minnesota. I mean, of course, he had Dante Culpepper, but he was also playing with guys like Brad Johnson. I think he had Jeff George for a short spell. I mean, there was a lot of just like low-tier quarterbacks that Moss was playing with when he was here in Minnesota. He continued to dominate. He just absolutely changed the game. I mean, he's not playing with you look at Jerry Rice, who admitted to using Stickum. He wasn't doing that. He wasn't out there playing with Joe Montana or Steve Young as his quarterback. He did a lot for this team. He's definitely deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. And Bill Polian, just shut your trap on junk like that. Like that's absolutely annoying. Like whatever. Don't be so disrespectful to Randy Moss and to Minnesota Vikings fans to say junk like that.
This is a lot of what I get heated up about when talking work, and sometimes I'm in the wrong too. You can have an opinion, Bill Polian. Your opinion's wrong as hell, but you can have it. Just to give my 2 cents for that, it's kind of like the baseball Hall of Fame voting. There's a lot of people who live in a world where they don't think it's they're in a glass house. I don't like people who judge other people when obviously, if he was a piece of shit off the field, I would be upset about it. I believe he was the Panthers general manager when they drafted Ray Caruth, who was a freaking murderer. So you got a lot of nerve to say something about Randy Moss when he's a little cocky and says a couple things here and there. This guy transcended a position of football like we've never seen. And I think the consensus that you would ask, 75 times out of 100, if you get me the top 3 receivers of all time, I think the argument would be Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, and Randy Moss in that order. And I'm totally in agreement with that. So you're going to tell me the guy that's number 3 all time, and I think he's number 3 all time in yards as well. Mm-hmm. I think he holds a single season record for most touchdowns by a receiver, which he had with Tom Brady in 2007. You're going to tell me that guy isn't Hall of Fame worthy? You're further adding to how stupid we think you sound, and I can't believe that you were a general manager at one point. Don't hold your personal bias against someone. And like I said, I related to baseball a couple minutes ago. They have such a personal bias to guys who use steroids, but these are the guys that beat their wives and cheat on their taxes and stuff like that. Whatever you say, man. Randy Moss is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and I guarantee you, if it's not a first ballot in the first year he's eligible, he'll be in there the second year.
Yeah, I know. It's just stupid stuff like that. Just irritating. And you look at, I think Randy is the number 2 wide receiver of all time. That's how I put him. I put Jerry Rice at number 1, and then Randy Moss at number 2. And that's just how I roll with that one. Just for how game changing that he was at that position, and just how you don't defend. He was just so impossible to defend. And you can even look at later in his career when he would go out there and he would burn a Darrelle Revis on the field when he was with New England. And I mean, that was when Darrelle Revis was at the top of his game. Right. And Randy burned him. I mean, he flat out burned him. And that was it. That was when he had lost a step at that point as well, too. And I also, then we can move on. But just to kind of continue to make the case for him, and the stat has probably changed a little bit now, but I know for a long time it used to be that the 2 highest scoring offenses in NFL history were the 98 Minnesota Vikings and then that Patriots team that Moss was on that went defeated and won the Super Bowl. I forget what year that was, but those were the 2 highest scoring offenses of all time, and the one thing that they had in common, Randy Moss. I mean, what more do you need to say? Yeah, what more do you need to say about being in the Hall of Fame than that?
There were teams that have done it better, and I think one of them I could be wrong about because I know the Falcons, they led it last year. I don't know how in all-time history, but I know that year that the Broncos and Peyton went and played against Seattle in the Super Bowl. That was the best offense. They scored so many times it was stupid. But, yeah, the 2 common denominators there were Randy Moss, so – enough on that soapbox. We can talk about Randy all day. This show is about Adrian Peterson. I'm going to go through the social media question real quick from last week because we've been having a good segment, and I'm glad you guys chimed in. I'm glad everybody understands now and they don't call us morons and say stupid things anymore like, why would you ask that? It's the off season, and I can because I run this page, so I'm going to. I don't need to have to justify it, but thank you for the people that do give us your input because I'm going to give you a shout-out. And we'll go by and see. So this player, I picked Sean Hill last week because Teddy Bridgewater's up in the air. We don't know where he's at. I've seen him running. I've seen him doing the ladder drills. I don't know if he's going to be back and ready. I mean, it's only February, so maybe. But I digress. We had about 15 people comment, and I'm going to go through the short ones first. Chris Finkler says keep. Michael Pels says keep. Clint Fredrickson, Adam's buddy, says keep. Wes Hainmeyer and Brett Richardson say cut. So does Joseph Lowen. So does Lance Hagen. They want him to be gone. John Dosedal says, I think he'll retire, but if he doesn't, I think he's cut. Eddie Self says keep it until Teddy is active on the roster again. Good point. Jonathan Craig says cut. Not a lot of value added at this point in his opinion. Our boy Dorian Foley. What's up, Dorian? I believe we can part with Mr. Hill. Raymond Hover, cut him as long as Taylor Heineke is ready to go. There's an X factor we can talk about at some point in the offseason. Taylor Heineke, what are you doing, bro? Brandon Ailes says, I'd say we cut him. Steven Osborne says, cut, draft a quarterback in the late rounds. Mike Capone says, keep. He's smart, runs plays correctly in training camp, not a bad locker room presence. I like the defense there. Steven Kornberger, by all means, cut him. He's the main purpose. His main purpose is to bring veteran leadership, and now it's obsolete due to Bradford being there. And Kathy S. the last.
Totally, I'm right on with that comment.
Yeah, I get it. And Bradford's only going to be 30 this year, so he's got a lot of tread on the tires left. So I'll get to Kathy. You're the last one. Thank you all for commenting. He says, I say we keep him until Bridgewater's back. Heineke is not smart enough to stay healthy and play. That's kind of a dig at old Taylor Heineke, but hey, you know what? You're justified in that. And I don't know. It's kind of split. I personally think we should get rid of him, not because I don't like him and not because I don't think he's a good quarterback. I just think you can find someone who can do almost the same job at a very lower price. And a guy that's young, I know you have to mold him. You have to turn down his mistakes and turnovers. But I personally think that you could find a lot of upside to a guy like Taylor Heineke. And I said this in one of the Vikings chats, and then we're going to talk AP for a little bit. This is going to be a shorter show. I think we should go out and add a different veteran quarterback. Find a Nick Foles out there. Find if there was still Kyle Orton around, grab him. Grab somebody like that. Because a lot of people annihilated me on these Viking pages, and they were like, well, why would you need a quarterback? We have Bradford. Yeah, we had Teddy until we didn't have Bradford last year. So I could do a whole segment on that. I might throw that in as my bold statement just on the page this week. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get your guys' opinions. But, yeah, I think we should part ways, but it wasn't for a lack of effort. I like Sean Hill a lot, and he was a true pro-career backup. So thank you for your time, sir. You won us a game last year when Bradford had to get ready.
I respect Sean. He's a super nice guy, smart guy, veteran guy. But I don't believe that he can win on the field anymore. I think when we've seen him come out sporadically last season for this team, he looked like the end of his career was really apparent, like it was done. I don't think you could count on him to come in, even if you had to, middle of a game finish it out at this point. Like, I really think that it's over for Sean, and that happens to all athletes at some point. So, he's had a really long, nice career. I'm sure he's got a nice pile of cash sitting in the bank out of this too. So they definitely need to move on because you need to have someone that's reliable. I don't even want to jinx us and talk about it, but Sam Bradford has an injury history in the past. Quarterback behind him that you can win with and who can come in at a moment's notice. I love Taylor Heineke. I think he is a good emergency number 3. I still haven't seen enough from him to prove that he can be a solid number 2. You need some kind of veteran quarterback that can go out and win. I don't know who that is because what we just talked about, every team wants that. Literally,
it's hard enough to find 32 starting quarterbacks. You want to double that and say there's 64 decent quarterbacks. So, it's weird.
There are very few teams that don't really care about their backup quarterback, and that's when you have Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Phillip Rivers as your starting quarterback. Other than that, unless you have one of those 4 guys, like, you really need to have a competent number 2. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't.
I got a suggestion for everybody. You ever heard of T-Mobile? Go get Tyrod Taylor. Why not?
See, I think the Bills stick with him because what other option do they have? I would totally stick with Tyrod
Taylor. I would
Taylor.
too, but they're not going to pay him when his contract is owed. This was a prove-it year. They gave him like $9 or $8 million guaranteed, and then it's supposed to get progressively bigger over time. So that's just my 2 cents. Go get a guy that's young who's been a starter and had semi-success. He's not like, blow you out of the water kind of crazy, but I don't know. I like that. I like that he's been a starter somewhere else, but
I'm mad for a minute. Let me do this. You guys ready? Are we all collected? Are we all calm? Are we all cool? I'm just saying.
He needs a job.
He needs a job. He can come cheap. You could a motivated Christian Ponder. You could stick in, and he could play like a quarter of football or a half of football, and you could win with him.
I think so.
everyone's going to hate me for that, and I'm not going to be a true Vikings fan.
And it's going to be a West Coast offense, which is what they run at Florida State where he was at. And it's more the short intermediate passes, which I trust him way more than I do throwing deep passes. So I don't care. I'm not opposed to it.
But you don't want to come back to Minnesota. That's not.
No, I don't think so. But let's talk about Adrian Peterson, man. This is not going to be any kind of hatred. We've already expressed our option that he's not worth the price tag that he demanded, and I totally understand a business move. I just want to talk about my favorite Adrian Peterson moments, watch him over the few years that I got to see him play. Because before, obviously the best season he had was 2012. We had Christian Ponder, had a good defense, and we rode a 10-6 train to the playoffs. My favorite game that I've ever watched was the Week 17 matchup in the Metrodome against the Packers to go to the playoffs that year. He broke the record. We won, I think, 37-34 37-34 that game. And it was the Aaron Rodgers-led Green Bay Packers team, and we just flat out beat them. It was a shootout. And you don't really think of a Christian Ponder, quarterback-led team ever being in a shootout. But you can go on YouTube, and I will show my son this, when he's old enough to understand and like football, that, hey, I watch this guy. Watch him just pile through people. An Adrian Peterson highlight reel, if you're a good running back, it'll be 7 to 8 minutes long. Adrian's is probably about 12 to 15. And just even 2 years ago against the San Diego team, we're outside. We're in the University of Minnesota at their stadium, and he just comes back after a year off. And it looks like, man, he's getting warmed up, and he breaks a couple tackles, does a spin move, and runs it in for like 45 yards. My favorite moment, obviously, I said, was the Packer game in 2012. I really liked that season with Teddy for showing his versatility. I think he rushed for like 200 yards against the Raiders, and they're like a powerhouse now. So, I just – as much hate as we've given to him about his off-the-field stuff, I love the guy. I love what he did for the team. I think he's going to go down easily as top 10 running back all time, easily, probably top 5. I really hope to see him win a championship. I wish it would be here with us. I really hope that if he doesn't win a championship, I would love to see his name right under Emmitt Smith at number 2 all time. I think he can do it. I think he's going to have to figure out and say, look, I'm 32. I'm still a beast. I'm still in really good shape, but the demand that football has been beating the hell out of my body for the last 10 years, I can't take it as much as I used to, and it's not his fault. He shouldn't feel weak for that. I think that he should go to a team like Dallas or Houston, somewhere that's got a good line or a good defense, and he can kind of balance it out, but he's going to have to be a number 2 somewhere. I don't see him being a feature back anymore that carries the ball 20 times a game.
One of my favorite Adrian moments, a couple of them, when he broke the single game rushing record. That was a fun game for sure.
That was amazing.
That run against the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, it's one of the all-time, any running back, any era, like 3 defenders, and he just like pushes them aside like school children.
He stops in the middle of the run with one hand and just off to the sideline. That is one of the coolest runs, just of all time. There's the one against Pittsburgh as well too. Where he just levels William. He just bam, levels him. That is amazing. That's the Adrian that we're kind of at the point where it's a little bit like a bad relationship that's come to an end right now. Where everyone is like, oh my God, we're ready to go and to move on, whatever. And the same thing happened with Randy Moss. We all said the same thing we're doing right now. We rationalized when Moss left. We're rationalizing when Adrian's left. At a time, and we can all go back to being nostalgic about Adrian Peterson and the awesome moments that we talked about before. The 2,000-yard season, the running players over, the being a beast, the carrying this team through some rough times. That's the Adrian that we're going to remember, and that's the Adrian that we should remember. So now that he's in all likelihood done with the Vikings, I think it's easier to go back and kind of reminisce about that. As for his future, as to what I think is going to happen, you're looking at a very small amount of teams that are, I think, going to have interest in him. One that I would be on the lookout for that not a lot of people are talking about is the Buffalo Bills. You're looking at a system that fits for Adrian. They got a fullback in Jerome Felton that he is very comfortable running behind. If you remember when Minnesota let Jerome Felton go, Adrian was pretty vocal about not being happy with that because he really liked running behind him. So you could reunite those two. They already have a good running back in LaShawn McCoy, so you could. It could be a system with LaShawn and Adrian if the two were willing to work together, where that would be interesting, where, you use LaShawn until you get into closer to the red zone, and then you stick in Adrian Peterson, and you let him be your power back. That's a good setup. What's going to happen with their quarterback situation? Maybe you don't know, so maybe you can rely more on your running backs. I think that would be interesting. Of course, everyone's going to say Dallas. You never know with Jerry Jones, but I don't think so. Houston, just because of the connection. But again, interesting to see what happens. Green Bay, we had talked about, is always a possibility, but he doesn't really fit their system. But you never know, just because of how good of friends Peterson was with Brett Favre. And I'm sure that, Favre came in and they all talked about how good it was for him to come to the Vikings and stick it to the Packers. So I could see that being in Adrian's mind, that he wants to go to the Packers to stick it to the Vikings.
I don't understand.
Who knows, man?
The Packers, after this year, they were a game away from the Super Bowl. They're clearly the better team in the division, and I don't say that as like a runaway because we beat them once and we competed in the second game. So I'm going to say it right now. My buddy Devin down here that I was mentioning earlier, Packer fan, he loves it. He thinks he's great there. Our resident football expert, Adam Carlson, on the show, puts out a good point. The system is not fit for Adrian Peterson. They have a great wide receiver converted running back in Ty Montgomery. And you got to think, AP's got to be willing to take a pay cut and take less reps. And if he's okay with that, I don't see why he couldn't go to Dallas. I think Houston is the best fit for all of us. I think he goes to a different conference. I think he goes to a team that has a decent running back now that's starting. They could split, 10, 12 carries apiece. Their quarterback situation is absolutely effed, but I think if they got that squared away, they have the number one defense in football. I think it would mirror a lot of what he remembers in Minnesota, terrible quarterback situation, great defense. But he would be in the comfort of his hometown, and I think the Vikings would be okay with saying, okay, you want to leave the team? Even though he's an unrestricted free agent, I think it fits best for him because he could be in his home of Houston. I think he would do well there, and they've been running away with that division the last 3 years. So that's just my prediction. I think he'll end up with the Houston Texans at a backup the Dallas Cowboys. He flirted with New York. Don't really know why. Same with Tampa Bay. They both respectively can't win their own divisions. I don't know why he would want to go there. Atlanta was in the Super Bowl, and Dallas kicked the shit out of everybody this year, and they're an up-and-coming team for sure. So not sure why he would want to go to New York and Tampa Bay if he's chasing a Super Bowl ring, but that's my prediction. He's going to stay in the state of Texas.
We'll see. If he really wants to be a Dallas Cowboy, he'll take a small veteran, above veteran minimum
$5 million
contract
to stay there and back up Zeke Elliott, and he would do big things. Even as a backup, I'd say he'd still get about 700-800 yards easily behind that line. So,
and you know what? Everyone would love him. Everyone would love him as a Dallas Cowboy. If he's smart, I hope he does something like that. Because as an Adrian Peterson fan, I'm wearing his jersey. I got his painting up behind me, right back there behind my TV set. I, honest to God, don't want to see him go to, say, whoever's going to throw him the most money, the Cleveland Browns. And he's just going to go there, and you're going to see him just look horrible at the end of his career. And he gets hurt, and it just blah. I don't want to see Adrian go out like that. If he's not going to be a Minnesota Viking, I'm at the point where let him go to Dallas, let him be productive for them, and go out and be able to compete. And that's what I want to see from Adrian Peterson.
I hope so too, man. I hope that happens.
Look, I would love for him to do that here in Minnesota. Like, if he's going to take a smaller veteran contract and be kind of the locker room leader, veteran guy, come Come do that for Minnesota. I would love that. I don't know if he's willing to do that for us, though.
I think he wants to move on, I'm okay with it. Kind of to transition out, I haven't done a bold statement in a while. I kind of tied it in earlier, and I'm just going to say it. If let's just say our numbers are off a little bit, and we have around $45 to $50 million lying around. I say we go out and find a Nick Foles somewhere. I say we go out and find a guy that can back us up. And you guys might think I'm stupid, but like I said earlier, we didn't think we had any quarterback worries in the world and Teddy Bridgewater last year, and he was done for a season, possibly 2 seasons. Bradford held up against a shitty O-line, and I understand it, and I'm happy that he did. I'm glad he didn't tear anything and rip anything and break anything, but Sean Hill's not the answer, and we don't know what to expect out of Taylor Heineke. So I think for insurance, unless you want to see another 8-8 or 6-10 season, go out and get a backup that's could compete somewhat with Bradford out there. No, I don't want Mark Sanchez in Minnesota. All right. Hey, here's a name, and I know he wouldn't like it. Jay Cutler's going to be on the market. Would you take it?
No, Jay Cutler.
I'm just putting options that I think are better than Sean Hill and or Taylor Heineke.
Mm-hmm.
Throw out names, swish it around in your mouth. I know some of you guys don't like that I mentioned Jay Cutler. I don't care. We need to address who's going to back up Bradford because we have no idea at this point if Teddy's going to be ready. Obviously, if Teddy was ready, I would love it if he was a backup because he's had success. But it's my bold statement of the week. I think it's crazy, but we should definitely find a backup for Bradford until Teddy's back. That's pretty
a bold statement,
man. It's
a bold statement, really quick. I'll keep mine short. I'll do a short one too. We were talking about this in the chat a little bit as well too. With Adrian gone, they're gonna have to do something with running back. Matt Asiata, maybe you draft someone. It would be interesting. Speaking of Ty Montgomery in Green Bay, Cordero Patterson had expressed a little bit of interest in playing running back. Should look into flipping Cordero Patterson into a running back and seeing what he could do from that position. That has potential. I think that could be interesting for this team. And it's like a third running back out there. I'm not saying.
Did you see him and Jerick McKinnon running around and splitting stuff up back there? That's pretty scary.
Yeah, it totally is. That's a lot of speed on the field to have out there. Plus, you know that he might not be the greatest at running routes, but he can run receiver routes and catch the ball and do other things out of the backfield as well, too. So you use him as a running back, but he's also a bit of a gadget back as well, too. So that's an interesting thing to look forward to that probably will not happen whatsoever. But you never know.
I like the want for it to happen, though. You know, he's expressed interest. I know there's been some reports that I'd read where Mike Zimmer says, you know, he needs to stick to and learn the whole wide receiver playbook, much less running. But when you draft a guy who's only played 1 year of wide receiver in college and you see that he's raw, go back to his rookie season. I mean, he scored a couple touchdowns as a running back, and this wasn't like goal line situations. This was like breakaway speed kind of stuff. I follow the guy on Snapchat. He's always grinding away in the gym. He's always a good player. He loves the Vikings. I'm a team player for the Vikings is what I meant to say, but I like him a lot, and I would not be opposed to trying that out. Is it going to work for every team? Probably not, but
they've done weirder things in the past. I mean, remember when Everson Griffin was a linebacker for like a month? I mean, you give this Rick Spielman and this staff credit. Like, when there's talent on this team, they want to find ways to get this talent on the field. And they try things. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I think Patterson, assuming he comes back, let's try it for like a month at running back and see what happens in training camp. You never know, man. You never know.
Why not? You know, I don't see anything wrong with that. But I'm not general manager or a coach or a player, so I'm just sitting here in my apartment in Texas. So I don't know. I liked it, though. I liked the idea, and I'm glad we got to shift it from one running back to another. So pretty good. Tell us what you guys think. If you have any bitches, gripes, complaints about the way we did the show, let us know. Don't be surprised if we fire back. We do love our listeners, though, and I just got to say thank you guys for sticking with us through the offseason because it's really boring. The good thing about this weekend coming up, it's the NFL Combine. So Mr. Adam Carlson and some of his colleagues over on the Viking Age are going to start doing scouting reports on possible players we should draft. I like the running back from Texas. I did watch a little bit of highlights on him. Adam's not a big fan of him, but for a second or third round pick, I think it would be pretty good, to pick up. But yeah, check out Adam's work, thevikingage.com. If you're into The Walking Dead, he's got a site called Undead Walking. He does a lot of writing for there too. I have a YouTube channel. You can find it on Facebook and YouTube. I'll have to give you guys the link. I'll have to put my stuff up there one day. I haven't put too much up recently. My dog passed away last week, so I did a cool little video with him. But I usually throw up a video probably about every 2 weeks, just some covers. What do you do, Mr. West?
Stuff and things, and you should check out my website because I've started writing on my own again. I got my own website. You can check it out at attackoftheblog.net. I will put that link up in the chat room, so go ahead and check that out. I only got 2 articles up right now, but it will be growing and expanding into all kinds of things. So, yeah, give that a look. You never know, you might find something that you like.
I like it. Thanks for everybody for listening. Thank you for tuning in this week. I will post up a social media question as soon as we get done for the next player that's in or out. I am going to go with the left tackle, Matt Khalil, because it's going to be a hot topic to talk about that guy. And hopefully you guys can jump in. The last thing I want to promote on here before we sign off is the YouTube channel. Our numbers will get there eventually. I'm going to push it hard until it does, so you guys are going to hear it forever. I'm going to post it on my personal page. We're going to post it on the podcast page, see how many people can share this stuff. If you click subscribe, it literally takes 5 seconds, and you'll never hear us have to whine and complain about this again. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll be set. We can do even more than what we're doing now. Remember, we used to do Skype audio for this show a couple of years ago, and now we do live Google Hangouts. So we're trying to go to YouTube Live. That's why we keep pushing it. We need your help. It doesn't cost anything, and all you got to do is click. So help us out if you can. Thanks for tuning into the show. We will be back and more awesome than we were this week next week. I don't have anything else. If you don't have anything, Kyle, stay classy, Minnesota.
Yeah, and let's tell everyone that Minnesota Wild are going to be playing here at 7. So, yeah.
Hockey action.
Yeah, we'll listen to hockey in the offseason. So, yeah, stay classy, everyone.